Climbers, what if there was a pathway, a fan finder formula that would help you gain real fans that would stick and help you be heard as an artist because they're repeatedly hearing your song, then saving your song, and consuming your song to the extent that when the campaign ends, your monthly listeners on Spotify actually grow. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to interview indie artist Brent Michael Wood, and we're going to pull back the green curtain here and show you exactly what happened, how we did it, and this is going to change everything. Welcome to the Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Leverage is what it's all about, people. That's what you're going to need to get the people that you want to work with interested in working with you. And by the way, that's what you're going to need to get the better deal, whether it's management, record deals, booking agencies, whatever. God, that's the key. And that's what we created this podcast for. And not for nothing, we named it as such. C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. It's just all about branding, right? Right. That is a accident for my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. And what I love about Brent is he helps artists like you, he helps writers like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, how you do business like a pro, and then on the regular, all kinds of opportunities to connect with the pros so that you can hook up with the people and the companies that are going to help you get to the next level in your career. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Look, if you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production, singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's happening?
Woo! So we're recording this after the interview, and I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of artists out there.
It's halfway through this campaign, like I said, the numbers lit up so much, like just the real, like the key performance indicators on this of like what it really takes to introduce an artist to somebody and make them a fan. And that sticks, that's not just a consumption number, but that actually is DMing the artist. Like, are you coming through town? Like, are you on tour? Like, I love this song. Where can I get more of this? That kind of stuff. Yeah. It's a different kind of dopamine hit, to be sure. But I'm real proud of what we did. And I like halfway through, I told like 3 people that I knew that would geek out, with me on the stats, and they all hired me. I mean, it was like, dude, let's do it. Let's try this. Let's try that. So it really is and it garnered like a couple like big, like let's say major label budget indie label meetings and some big producer meetings and stuff. So it's starting to turn some heads, and we tell you all about it in this episode, man. But before we get to that, let's take care of a little business here. We want you to join the Climb community on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. And you got to ask to join. You got to answer 3 questions so we know you're not a bot. Real easy questions. And then we let you in. We let everybody in. That's not a bot. That you can't imagine how many people how many bots don't answer those questions. That was
a simple question. What's your name? What's your quest? What's the average airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Easy stuff.
Well, an African swallow or a European swallow? I don't know that.
Monty Python shout out for those who know.
but then, guys, this is singers, songwriters, indie artists, indie musicians, industry people in there thriving, helping each other out. You can brag about your new music on Monday. You can talk about your gigs on Thursday. And then we celebrate the wins on Wednesday. And on that celebration, which happens like in the Facebook group, we also celebrate that on the pod. So what do we got?
Yes. So every Wednesday we post the New Heights post in the C.L.I.M.B community. It's where we want to hear about your music related wins so we can celebrate with you. And so it's a good time had by all. Here we have climber Joel Dusek says updated and improved melodies and arrangements for 2 songs that have been hanging around for a while, ready to record demos. That is a win when you put in the work and you get some outcome from it. So love that, Joel. Congrats. Climber Kathy Wallace says new release out today from the amazing Amy Vanator Music. Love our Christmas songs. So the song is called, let me pull it up here. It's on your streaming services. It's called Christmas on My Mind by Sweet Country and the Dog Biscuits. Amy Vanator is part of that group. So congrats, Climber Kathy and Climber Joel. Keep on climbing.
Way to go, Kathy and Joel. I love it.
Yep.
I love it. So make sure you follow the podcast wherever you consume podcasts and tell a friend about it. Now let's and tell a friend about this episode, because this is it. We tell you how we did it. We tell you how we did it. The campaign ended, and his Spotify monthly listeners increased. What? Like, how the hell does that happen? Well,
right.
We're going to tell you guys. So without any further ado, let's introduce our guest. All right. So today's guest is a dear friend of mine. Actually, how close of a friend of mine? He was the officiant at my recent wedding. So he's responsible for anything that happens from here on out in terms of me getting married.
I apologize ahead of time, man.
and he's about to be married himself to a dear friend of mine and Janelle's named Heather, and Janelle actually set them up. So we're kind of like, this is a sorted group.
Full circle. Yeah.
But please welcome to the show, indie artist and fantastic writer, Mr. Brent Michael Wood. Brent, thank you for coming on.
Hello, guys. Hey, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, welcome.
Yeah. So what we want to talk about today was, and I want to kind of put this into perspective, y'all. I've been having the same conversation with the industry for the last decade. Okay. The music industry is woefully behind on the adaptation, if you will, on adapting to digital platforms. Spotify doesn't count. That's just a new way to do distributing the same old way. And streaming doesn't count. But as far as their marketing is concerned, they're stuck in the old days. And how bad is this? How prevalent is this? I just recently had an interview with a very well-known producer who saw a problem that, Spotify wasn't getting the attention that it needed to be getting from one of the artists he was producing, in the wake of a significant amount of money being spent on secondary radio campaigns, and asked me to come in and speak to this artist's team. They had an investor. I started off with the elevator pitch of, I think we've got a repeatable, reliable way to build an on-ramp for an artist to the, let's call it the super highway of editorial playlisting. And that was the first 30 seconds of the meeting. And the next question out of the investor's mouth was, what's an editorial playlist? So, and then right after that, he followed up with, look, here's our goal. We want to create a JV with a record label. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I mean, this is not, to the producer's credit, like, he got it. And also to the producer's credit, marketing, promo, not his job, not his first language. This is a creative, he writes songs, he produces artists that, huge hits on the radio, but he saw a hole and was trying to help. But this is kind of, what we're up against. So this isn't me making fun of that artist's team that, of course, I'm not going to mention, but it's me, like, my jaw is on the ground on how much opportunity there is out there, because nobody is going down this rabbit hole, because nobody that is pulling the levers in the mid levels or upper levels of this business, and nobody wants to see it work, because then that means that radio doesn't, and then they don't know what to do, and that makes them feel irrelevant, and that is so much more powerful than you could probably possibly imagine. Okay. So that's the opportunity. So I was literally about to just kind of, hang on to Mackenzie, my one artist that I had, and just because I was just sick of pounding my head against the wall, because, the last couple of years we've had artists that were compelling, that had amazing talent, that we had great, competitive songs, competitive recordings, and still the artists wouldn't do the work. Didn't want to do it this way. So it was just kind of like, you know what? I can't wait for another 10 years for the industry to come around. This is I'm kind of was kind of done with it. I was walking away. And I remember, if you guys have been reading Bob Lefsetz, like I told you, I will also tell you, and this isn't like a humble brag here, but I will say that I was very proud of this. Bob Lefsetz, if you look down on his archives of his blog, had just gone on a rant on one of his blogs about a record label that made the news because they generated a huge amount of profit. And Bob's a purist, right? When it comes to music. And he was just like, what they did was fire a bunch of middle management and reorganize this label. And that's what made the news. Like, who cares about that unless you have stock in the label or you work at the label? That sounds like a Wall Street Journal headline, not a national news headline. He goes, the national news headlines are, we just signed Led Zeppelin and now we're going to make a ton of money. That's where labels should be making national news. And he had mentioned that there was the new leader of this label during this restructuring was, quote unquote, who knows what'll happen. Maybe it'll turn out better, because he was, quote unquote, internet savvy. And that triggered me. I'm not going to lie. And I fired off a well-crafted response. And I was like, there is nothing internet savvy about the music industry, right? We still don't know who the customer is. The labels don't. And I had mentioned that, after several different frustrating interactions with some of the bigger ticket outlets and trying to promote shows and events for our clientele, the digital tracking capability that exists on e-commerce sites like Shopify, like Amazon, is astonishing. And it's been going on for 2 decades now. And any true e-commerce industry people would laugh at the infancy of our ability to execute e-commerce in the music industry. It's a fact. I mean, you can't track anything. They don't know who their customer is. It's a big, hot mess, which is, again, a huge opportunity for you. So fast forward to Brent comes in, and I had this idea that I kind of cooked up in my mind. And what we want to talk about here is, in this interview, is we want to talk about a few of the promotions that Brent did for his latest batch of songs that he's been promoting. And Brent is a unique artist, by the way, not country. Would you say you're Americana, Brent?
When people ask me that, I try to say like Americana rock, I guess.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to push it to somebody, I always kind of say it's kind of like, the Eagles meets Bruce Springsteen meets Bryan Adams. Yeah,
there you go. And if you can tell already by listening to his voice, one of the things artistically that I love about Brent, among many, is a very, very identifiable voice. Okay. It's very unique, and it sounds different. So, he came in and was kind of expressing some frustration with some playlist promotion that we're going to go in depth on. And I said, well, I got this idea, and the idea that I cooked up on, if you guys have been longtime climbers, you know how I put this together, right? Like, it's the same stuff we've been talking about. It's all foundational. And man, we did something really incredible that we actually built an audience, right? We put a stair in the staircase and it's stuck after the promotion ended. And so that's kind of the role that we want to go down, or I'm sorry, the story that we want to tell here, explain to you what happened and get you guys again asking the right questions. So Brent, let's start off with first, like you had released, was it 2 songs right prior to the promotional push you put on with the playlist stuff?
Yeah, and just I'm going to kind of probably speak to a number of independent artists' frustrations. Is we record material, and then we think we have to have just the right time to release it. Like, oh, I have to make sure I have all this content ready, all this promotional material, so like I can get the bang for my buck kind of thing. And so I mean, I've had these songs recorded for a couple of years, and just kept on waiting for like, oh, this isn't the right time. I don't have the funds to properly promote it. And so the first couple of songs I released, I finally was just like, you know what? It's better to be out in the world than be just in my folder doing nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I released a couple songs that I was really proud of, but outside of like my live audience, no one heard it because there was nothing behind it to reach anybody that wasn't like my mom's friends and stuff. And so that was frustrating. And so I've always just been an artist, and I'm very new to the ins and outs of social media marketing, especially when it comes to single promotion. And that's when I just finally was like, you know what, I have friends in the industry, 2 right in front of me right now that are a wealth of knowledge, and I was like, why not use the tools you have around you? And so I finally made a decision, like, if I'm going to do this, this full-time music thing, I'm going to do it right and get a team behind me, get the tools behind me to at least give myself the best chance to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So, and we've been having conversations for a couple of years now. I mean, Brent has been a friend for a while, and I'm always able to corner him into writing with my artists.
Hey, you got that in common too? Do you do that to all your Brent friends?
All right.
And I say Brent, but I'm speaking about both of them. Like,
that's true. That's right.
Well, you're the one, BMW. You're the one with all the definitely with all the singing and guitar chops. So that's how people can differentiate us. You got the better voice and the better guitar playing skills for sure.
Yeah, there you go. You have a much cooler backdrop right now too. So.
Looks better on the wall than it does in the wallet some days.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. Well, it's all railroad track. It's all railroad track, man. Like that all matters when that next big thing happens, and it doesn't happen without all that prior stuff before it, So, so we've been talking for a while, and Brent's like, okay, look, I'm ready to make some moves here with this next release. And the first line of defense I had, again, because I was kind of like working my way out of, I guess, the music industry in a way, just like, or at least in this capacity, right? So I hooked him up with a playlist promotion company that I have worked with for years now. These guys this is a very legit, solid playlist promotion company. And what we're about to describe here on what happened with the playlist promotions is in every way, shape, and form indicative of any playlist, even an editorial playlist from Spotify. So it's very difficult, I think, for people to see the nuance, but it's a gaping, huge chasm of difference between the ability to make money, as crappily as the streaming services pay, and the ability to promote, right, and to drive traffic. So this playlist company, by the way, I mean, they work for Interscope Records, Atlantic Records, Rihanna, Carrie Underwood, like, huge artists. So the thing with them is that they own traffic. From 1,000 shows, my PDF download is whoever owns the traffic rules the road. And here is a shining example of that. This company spent millions of dollars obtaining or procuring playlist traffic. They don't create the playlist, they don't promote the playlist, they don't curate the playlist, but when somebody puts together a playlist with a certain amount of songs that they like, and some lightning in a bottle happens with regards to search and algorithmic search, and all of a sudden that playlist, it could be from some guy in a trailer park in the middle of Oklahoma, gets a boatload of traffic and it stays. And so then this company will come in and offer that guy money to buy that traffic, so he has guaranteed traffic. And the way that he monetizes that traffic is twofold. One is artists like Brent and these labels, artists and stuff come in, will offer money, and he'll guarantee a certain amount of streams because he puts your song in these playlists and you get that traffic. The other way is, which is brilliant, is he gets track guys pays them $1,000 a pop to do cover songs as close to the original that are on all his playlists as possible, and then he owns the master. And so he dropped that song into his own traffic, and he's got 30, 40, 50 songs, each getting at least 1 million streams every single month. And do the math on that times $3,300 at 1 million streams. He owns the traffic. He's able to make money on it. So this is where I started. I mean, artists typically want that dopamine hit, and I think there's a lot of benefits to playlist promotion in the sense that optics, it looks well, and we've used this for very, very specific tasks, like with artists that we have that are regularly touring in the middle of a playlist campaign, because we would buy 100,000 streams, right? That's $2,750. And while that's happening, while you're in the middle of that traffic, I mean, just, if you can picture like the busiest interstate that you have in the city that you live in, and then just standing in the middle of it in between the cars coming at you, this is what I'm talking about, like traffic, right? Mm-hmm. And we would buy 100,000 streams while that campaign is happening. Your Spotify account is going to jump up to how high did yours get, Brent? Like 80, 90, 100,000 monthly listeners?
Yeah, I think my campaign, I think it lasted. I think I got to 100,000 within like 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah,
and so I was getting probably like 6,000 to 8,000 streams a day on that one single.
Yeah, and do you remember just any specific number at all of like how high on Spotify, if I go to your account and I look at your monthly listeners, how high that got?
Yeah, it got to like I want to say like 90.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. And so I probably, over the years, guys, over the last 7 years, I've probably done like 30 songs with this company, with the various artists. And so while you've got that heat going on, right, we would use that as a crowbar to get some of our touring artists into better venues, right?
Yep.
And so for the booker at the venue, for some of my artists who were like impressed by that didn't bother to look at his socials, are like, yeah, bring him in here, and then that gives the artist a shot to go in and the artist goes in, crushes it live, obtains that venue in their account and now in their tour circuit. So that's a good thing, right? Optically, it looks good because as the artist brand begins to grow, you can see that there's higher numbers on there, that things have happened, and it feels like you're, a part of something. But here's the downside to this. Brent, I want to give the emotional downside, and then I'll give sort of some of the numbers behind it. So
sure.
What were, how did you feel initially, right? Your first campaign that you did the playlist on, because you did 2 releases where we used the playlist promotion. And then, how did you feel at the beginning of the first one and then at the end of the second one, let's say?
Sure. Well, I guess when that promotion, first starts going, obviously when your numbers are low and you start seeing that big spike, like you said, it's a dopamine hit for sure. And, it's just cool to see your something in your account. It's cool to see those numbers going up, and what like you said for optics and for screenshots of time. It can be a useful marketing tool as far as like if like your Instagram stories or that kind of things. Like, hey, check out, like, thank y'all so much for supporting this thing and getting
Yeah.
10,000 streams in the first couple days, that kind of thing. That's
Social
beneficial.
Yeah.
But then I get the data from those playlists, and like a chunk of it was like a fully Spanish speaking playlist, and I was like, why am I on that? I doubt anybody is going to become a fan of me from possibly coming across my single on this playlist. And so that was my first like thing to, if I use them again, to like, can we try to curate these playlists a little more to my genre of music and not just digital real estate, and try to be more like strategic about who hears it and who doesn't.
And did you have that conversation with the company?
I did, and so when I used it the second time, they took that. I think there's like 3 playlists that they took off.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool. So so there's the the positive part of that, but what we're ultimately trying to do here is not make ourselves feel better as much as like I want people to hear the music and to listen to my song and to like my song and become a fan, right? Like that's
right.
ultimately the way that you're going to build your audience. And so statistically in the back end on Spotify for artists, and I should mention too, it's important to know that with the playlist promotion company, I'm sure they exist, but I've never worked with any that aren't directly related to Spotify. This is all Spotify, which has
that's correct. Yeah, this is only playlist for Spotify that I use. This is not Apple, not
Amazon or
sorry, my dog's going crazy. Sorry.
That's right.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
So the playlist is Spotify only. And what always bugged me about the playlist promotions was they had pros over here with optics. We were able to use it for very specific marketing purposes, but in terms of fan creation, it was non-existent. The save ratio on a playlist, and I'm going to tell you that this is going to be pretty indicative of even an editorial playlist, is horrific. It's the average is 0.8 to 1.2%. So what that means is out of 100,000 streams that are playlist streams, which is let's refer to that as program traffic, right? So the only reason that any artist is getting that traffic is because they're the next song on this playlist that a boatload of people are listening to. Mm-hmm. So it's they're not choosing it, it's coming up, and it's a drive-by. So when you put that in terms of a brand, a well-known brand, I'm sure these numbers that I'm about to explain to you are quite different because they recognize the voice, they recognize the name, it's exciting. But when we're talking about breaking an artist where the voice is not recognizable by the consumer, the brand of the artist is not recognizable by the consumer, it takes a lot more work to get yourself, number one, to get the brand in there, number two, to get that song as an earworm into their head, right? Mm-hmm. So the average, so we're talking like for every 100,000 streams between 800 and 1,200 saves, where a consumer will save the song after hearing it basically one time, right, to their account, to their personal library, and then hopefully they're going to add that to a personal playlist because they like the song, and it's going to live there for a little bit.
So it's kind of the difference using other social media analogy of saying, hey, I ran across your Instagram, page but now I'm sending you a friend, like a Facebook, but I'm sending you a friend request or Instagram, but I'm going to kind of follow you. Like it's another step. So far, just a spin is like, I ran across it. I was exposed to
Yeah.
it. And a
Yeah.
save
Like
is
you
more
trip
like, is
over
that
it.
next step of going, I want to trip
You
over that
trip
again.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You trip over it. And then the follow capture on program traffic is even worse, right? It's probably 0.25. So I think the first song that you did a playlist campaign on, we got 44 followers, right, Brent? And there was a month between or 6 weeks between the first release and the second release, right?
Yeah.
So the second release, the actually got 77 followers. It's usually not that way. It's usually like you get the biggest numbers first and then it sort of declines. But the reason it was bigger was because the distance between the second release and the third release that I worked on was like 90 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Ish. So
And
there's just more time.
yeah, and just so I can reiterate this, when I did use that promotional playlisting, like I said, it is a dopamine hit, but also it's a crash also, because I mean it really is. As soon as we hit that 100,000, it's cut off, and
Yeah.
and you see that table just fall off, and
Right.
and you see like not a lot of people are sticking around after that, and that's what gets tough when you're like, oh, I guess these weren't really like fans that wanted to hear more stuff. They just, like I said, just came across it one time and they're kind of like a one and done kind of thing. And that's not what you want when you're trying to build a fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a really good point. So if you look at your Spotify for Artists account and you look at a 12-month view of all the streams and you have a few releases that are out, it looks kind of like a heart monitor, right? Like it looks like a heartbeat and then there's that space in between the next release, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, on a promotion, if Spotify was better at sort of promoting, right, at getting fans for artists, then you would see that sort of resting heart rate, like the amount of streams in between releases a month after the campaign ends is going to be increasing on some
So
level,
basically,
right?
the floor or the baseline should go up after every spike. The floor should raise.
Yeah, the floor. That's a better way to describe it. Thank you. Yeah,
Words.
and so words. So that's not what happened here, though, right? Like after each one of these, you had that hard crash, and then it was right back down to double digits. Maybe I think you might get 120 streams a day, but usually somewhere between like 60 and 120 streams a day. Would you say that's about right?
Right. Yeah.
And one thing I'd point out is that this is not an indictment on the quality of the music. This is just what happens with these things, like kind of pretty much probably across the board. It's not because, oh, well, that music didn't resonate or this music does. And if it was just better, it would totally take off. No, I think this is just like, this is how the world works with this kind of promotion.
Thank you for that. Because I will say the first release called Burn that you did on the playlist promotion was the most amount of saves I've ever seen in one out of probably 30 songs that I promoted over the last 7 years with that company. Mm-hmm. So that actually tracked really, really freaking well, and I mean, you got 1,668 saves, I think, and it was like a total of 130,000 streams, I guess it ended up at, So here was what I was looking at with that. I was looking at, because I mean, how many times, Brent, have we talked about the magic number is 7, right? 7. We have to remember as artists, as songwriters, as industry pros, that we have the curse of knowledge, right? We can hear something once and you're in, and you have a profoundly different relationship with music than your average consumer. So your average consumer needs to hear that song 7 times before their brain stops ignoring it, before they actually really internalize it. And then you're starting to build a fan from that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the playlist promotion, people are stumbling across the song because it's program traffic. It's the next song on the playlist. They don't see your face. They might not even be looking at their phone or their device when that's happening. They might be working around the house, having it come over the speakers, might be in the car while they're driving. I don't think that most people would consume playlists like that, where they just sit down on a chair with a cup of coffee and look and just do a deep dive on every artist that's
Right.
while the song's playing. I don't think that's the way that it happens, and I don't think that's the way that anybody listening to me consumes their playlists
Right.
on Spotify. So there's your proof, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the big number that stuck out to me was on Spotify for artists. They have a streams per listener, so that's the repetition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on each one of these playlist promotions, and this is true of all that I've done, the 30 that I've done, I kind of started obsessing with the fact that the average streams per listener was, during the campaign, was 1.4, 1.5. Brent, would you say that's accurate?
I mean, at the height, yeah, that sounds about right.
And this is, I have to mention this. So this is, we're really getting into the nuance here. But if this is during the campaign, like while the campaign is happening, while you're trying to break the song, essentially, you're doing your version of trying to break the song. That's the amount of listens. But what happens is inevitably, some of those people that save the song are going to put that in their own personal playlist. And depending on how long that song stays in there, it's gonna start to get, you're not gaining any more listeners, right? Because they know that one person saved the song, but you're gaining more streams. And so the streams per listener increases after the campaign is over, but it's by a very minute amount of people that save the song. Mm-hmm. So how can we increase the amount of streams per listener, the amount of times that a person hears this song during some kind of promotional push, right?
How do we get to 7? Right?
How we can get that number higher? How can we get to 7, right? Yeah. These are the right questions to ask. So, Brent, I can't remember how we kind of got into this, but tell me how you felt after the second campaign was done. You're putting a lot of thought into the third campaign, and you took a beat. You took 90 days because clearly you had to take a breath and what was going on in your mind at that point with regards specifically to what had happened and what you wanted to happen, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess, with any independent artist with a, minimal budget, you're hoping that, you either, get lucky and catch fire, or something goes viral, or, the math god in the sky chooses your song or your video, for favor to a bunch of people. But then, also just like the dollars and the cents of it, as an independent artist, that's, paying for all these things. If it was any other business, your ROI on your investment is like 10% with those playlisting things. You're like you said, 1 million streams get you a little over $3,000. If your cost of your promotion is almost $3,000 and you're only getting 10% of that back, that's a hard business plan to keep going.
Yeah. Not super sustainable on that. I'll give you a dime. I'll give you $1. You give me a dime. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
And on that point, what you say makes absolute sense. But this is also, I want to remind artists that this is a different business model, because this echoes a little bit of the conversation that I had with that management company that I told you about with the producer, where he was like, why should we invest in Spotify? The ROI stinks, right? They pay crappily. But, again, the dichotomy is in the same sentence. He's like, we want to create a JV with a label. Well, you're going to need to be doing a boatload of Spotify business to attract a label enough to want to, give you a joint venture as opposed to a 360 deal. And but the second thing is that when it comes to art, there is certain let's call it like little moments of critical mass along the way where something kind of blows up a little bit and takes on a life of its own. And that's what you're trying to gear towards, right? You're trying to get toward. So it's always going to be, and music has always been this way, guys. Like Bruce Springsteen's first record, Billy Joel's first record, Aerosmith's first record, Taylor Swift's first record, U2's first record. Like nobody made money on the first record. The only ones that did were the super high lottery ticket outliers, like Guns N' Roses and who was I'm forgetting her name. You ought to know.
Alanis Morissette.
Alanis Morissette. Like those. If the record business could work like that, it would be amazing, right? But it doesn't. It usually, they're losing money on the first record. They're hopefully breaking even on the second record. And the third record is when the critical mass happens and everybody makes that big return. So you've got to understand it like that. If you're really serious about trying to promote your brand, you can't solely look at it through the lens of a normal business, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to buy these 2 lemons and this sack of sugar and this pitcher for X amount of dollars. And then I'm going to sell it for X plus 50% and make a profit, right?
Today.
Right. Yeah. Today. Like it doesn't work like that. Not for hardly anybody. So, it's going to be, it's just like if you tour, you go into a new market, you're going to lose money in that market until you're able to be there enough times to build up your audience, get your money up, and now it becomes another profit center for you. But you don't roll in there to a brand new market as a profit center, right? That's just not going to happen. So
yeah, and I think with that, I think I knew that after hearing all the stories and kind of just knowing the scene and stuff. And so I think on my end, the best I could hope for is just like some traction, some impressions, something to build on.
Yeah.
And I think when those
to build on. Say that one more time. Something to build on.
When you're investing in yourself the first time, all you're really hoping for is either to make an impression or to get some traction or get some runway, for the next thing. That's like you're saying, like when you're just getting started, you need to have a launch pad.
Well, it's a thing. You want to keep raising the floor. What can I do to raise the floor for next time?
Yeah, well, I want this hill to go up.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I want to build a ramp right on. So the thing about Spotify is that it's a really, really worthwhile exercise to figure out how to get on these editorial playlists. Because if the song is tracking really well, it gets a different opportunity than that's free traffic that would all be program traffic, but there's money to be made there, right? But we've said this before, don't confuse that with promotion or marketing or brand recognition, right? I mean, there's a difference. There's nuance here. Like I can't tell you, Brent, I know you probably know a million of these too. Like we've got a lot of friends with mid-level artists that maybe have Spotify accounts with, 10, 20 million total streams on them that still can't sell out my office, right? And so they have got on some playlists that made them some money, but there's other things they have to do to promote, right? To be able to increase their draw at a live show, to be able to increase, to Brent Baxter, to your point, that you're resting traffic. Like how much is it being consumed every day?
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't confuse that with the big, because we only kind of hear the big stories of the wins, right? Where the Dasha thing happens and you get this runaway ridiculous viral hit, 155 or 160 million streams, and then next thing you know, she's got a record deal.
Yeah.
Right. But guess what comes with the record deal? Like a whole freaking marketing infrastructure and promotion infrastructure to push her brand. So that's different than that. But just as the indie artist, the doable, achievable plateaus for tomorrow, like, goals for tomorrow is, we can build, even with a small budget, you can build this on-ramp sort of, inch by inch to where you can regularly be considered by Spotify to be put onto a bigger playlist, and or let's call it an editorial playlist. And if you don't understand how these works, think about like a stair step up and a stair step down, right? They're going to put you on the smaller editorial playlist first, and if they continue to track really well, you graduate to one that has a bigger audience, and then a bigger audience, and then a bigger audience. And this really gives you the opportunity, and Spotify is very democratic in this, guys. Like, anybody can do it. If you go to any New Music Friday playlist, no matter what genre of music you listen to, country, rock, rap, whatever, there is always a handful of artists in that playlist, if you go through and deep dive on each one of them, that have less than 100,000 monthly listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just about be certain that they're indie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet they are right next to major label artists in that genre that are going to all be on that initial playlist before those artists with the bigger brand names are going to graduate up. But, Rap Caviar, I think, is the biggest one for rap. I'm not sure what the biggest one for country is. You guys know what it's called, that playlist?
I'm not
I don't
sure,
know either.
no.
But, that's where the 150 million streams can come from. And that's where you can get paid, right? Like, 150 times $3,300 if you own just the master and it's a cover song.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. That can help. That can help a lot. So it was the low amount of streams per listener, and the fact that, and I think I interrupted you there, Brent. So you're at the end of this second one, it drops off like a cliff. And what are you searching for now at this point?
I guess outside of just my frustration, as an artist, and I'm sure a lot of other artists and writers are there, is that I feel like the content is good and a quality product, and I'm just frustrated that if only somebody could hear this, I think they would enjoy it.
Right.
I think that's the biggest struggle with any artist, is that you're just trying to be heard.
Yeah.
And with being kind of a regional act like myself, from South Texas, I could get that from my live shows, but trying to get that in the digital world and almost feeling like you're falling on deaf ears is anything less than frustrating, when you're trying to grow a product but also just find an audience outside of your small little regional bubble, like where you live or where you're from. And so that's what I was just starting to see other options and other avenues, and that's when I came to you and said, what else can we do besides this?
Yeah. So here's what we did. The third release comes out, and it was out, I think, at the time that you had dropped it, at the time that you came to me, because it was released July 27th, right?
Yeah, maybe like 2 weeks, something like that. Maybe so.
Yeah. I mean, it just dropped, but it was out, and you weren't doing a playlist promotion at this point. And I said, yeah, I've got an idea. And what am I thinking about? I'm thinking about the basics, like, because you say you want to be heard, right? And you want the song to be heard, but that doesn't mean that there's a difference between the song getting played and the song getting heard, right?
Yeah.
So if we really,
right, Jesus,
how good is that, right? Like, I got to make a T-shirt of that. That's just freaking happening.
You can't hear Jimmy. The white man can't come. Can't hear Jimmy. Anyway.
And it's very similar to, I mean, it's very similar to like the definition of communication, right? It doesn't matter what you're saying. It doesn't matter that you're right. What matters is what's being understood. Like, what are they internalizing? And so, a drive-by on a playlist is not going to be enough for most people to really hear you as the artist, to really hear the song. It's not giving it a chance. Now, I know this. You understood this, Brent. And so I said, let's do this. So we did a different kind of promotion that, just a quick sidestep here. The other part of just about every other promotion technique, and I'm just going to keep saying this until it makes sense to people, because I understand that this is hard to get your head around, okay? But with the playlist promotion from that commercial company, you don't own the traffic, they own the traffic. With an editorial playlist, God bless you when you get on them. I want every one of your songs to get on an editorial playlist, okay? But you don't own the traffic. Right? There's no data there for you to get. There's nothing for you to do after you're off the playlist, right? Terrestrial radio, you don't own the traffic, okay? And there's a million other promotions companies that I've run into with different artists that I've worked with that have, and they have varying degrees of success, right? So I'm not saying like they're a good idea or a bad idea, but I'm saying recognize this: you don't own the traffic. There's no ROI on data, right? So unless you're using their marketing mechanism to generate their traffic to you and you have a way to capture that traffic, then not your traffic, okay? So we did something totally different. And what we did was we created a different promotion that worked on social media. Okay, I'm going to break down how we did this, but essentially we spent the same amount of money that you spent on each of those playlist promotions, like the same amount of money you spent on the first one, which was $2,750. I think you spent $3,000 on the second one, right? Because you got an extra 25,000 streams, right?
Yeah.
So it's right in the wheelhouse of what you could afford on that. And we did this from your Facebook and Instagram account, right? With your ad account, with your pixel, which collects the data. So every time we're getting traffic and we're getting and we're having success, somebody watches that video, saves it, shares it, comments on it, whatever, that is data that you're collecting that you can use later, right?
You know what that
there's
is?
an immediate ROI in the data.
Got another backstream for you. Just came up with this. So ROI, it's not just return on investment, it's return of information or retention of information.
There you go.
That's the other ROI that matters.
Stop it. Hold on a second. Let me cool you down for that hot right there. We got two value bombs in this already. Two t-shirt worthy statements, right? Just because there's a difference between getting heard and getting played.
Yes.
So we ran a campaign. The campaign's sole purpose was to drive traffic, but not just to Spotify, to all the streaming platforms, right? So we utilized the link tree that you got from your aggregate distributor when you uploaded the song. We spent $2,770 on the ads. And why don't you explain like how that looked, how that felt from your end, Brent, and then I'm going to go into the numbers on it.
Sure. So I guess what helped, decided to go this direction after speaking with you in depth about it, and saying we're kind of basically going to take pieces of like micro content and push it through different channels on like Instagram, Facebook, through the link tree. I think it also helped that I had already recorded a music video for it, And so we had some good, visual content that we could like
Yes.
cut up.
Yes.
And then Johnny was like, besides that video, which looks great, and we can use different snippets of it, like the intro, the first chorus, the bridge, and let's see what works best. Come in to the studio and let's talk about the song, like how it was written, what it was about, who you worked with on producing. These are little caveats to get somebody that is like trying to get to that, like I said, that click number 7 that likes the song and wants to know more about where it came from. And I think that's where you get that information of like I said, not just being played but being heard, and hopefully gaining a fan that down the road gets an ass in a seat to a live show.
Yes.
And that was my goal with this.
So I love that. So here's what happened on the numbers end of this, okay? And then we're going to kind of talk about why it worked the way that it worked, okay? But the whole overarching fundamental framework behind this is reach and frequency. It's the same fundamental architecture that radio is anchored in, okay? But we're doing it on a digital platform. So, let's be transparent. The first release that you did with the playlist company, you got 130,000 streams. The second playlist, you got, I think it was a total of like 144,000 streams, the second release. And was what we did here like anywhere close to that amount of streams?
No.
So way less streams, okay? Because it's not a playlist and there's not like millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people or thousands of people like listening to this playlist. So it's a different animal. But what happened was we started this campaign and immediately we start to get, we're driving traffic to your account on each one of these platforms. But let's just keep in mind, we're talking like all the platforms: YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, Napster, Deezer, Tidal, Pandora, all of them. Everything that you would see on a link tree from your distributor. So the difference in this, and you have to understand that, with Spotify, the idea of being able to regularly qualify and be taken seriously about a pitch to Spotify to get on a playlist is you have to have like a minimum amount of traffic, right? They want to see like about 30,000 monthly listeners, okay?
Yep.
And the way that the monthly listeners is calculated, by the way, because this is important to what I'm about to say, it's a 28-day rolling number, okay? So that's why when you're on the playlist promotion, you shot up to like 90,000 monthly listeners, because there's hundreds of thousands of people that are being exposed to that are playing this track because it's next on the stream, and then boom, you get that number, and then when it drops off, it goes away because the amount of streams drops off like a cliff, like it just basically stops. But the monthly listeners over a 28-day period significantly declines until you're back down to where you started. And at the end of this second campaign, you are at, I should say just before we started our campaign, you are at about 1,700 monthly listeners. That sound about right, Brent?
Yep.
Okay. And so you had 44 follows on the first playlist campaign release. On the second release that you used the playlist campaign on, you got 77 followers. And then the next one comes. So we start up this campaign, we go in there, and what was astonishing was the amount of saves, right? In the height of this campaign, remember on the playlist, the average is 0.8 to 1.2%. Okay. I've had 0.6, 0.7% on some releases that just didn't track well. Not every song is going to track the same. Okay.
Mhm.
But on this campaign, the save ratio was 16.8% during the campaign, which
That
was
is a
astonishing.
monstrous increase. That's
A
ridiculous.
huge increase. And during the campaign, it's now exceeded this, but during the campaign, so that's a save rate, right? That means like 16.8% of the streams on the overall streaming that happened, people saved the song into their Spotify library. And then during the campaign, throughout the entire campaign, it was somewhere between 97 and 99% of those saves were added to a personal playlist. Okay. Now, the difference in this is intentional traffic versus program traffic. Okay. So program traffic is what happens in a playlist because they're not seeking out this song. It's just what's next on the playlist. But for 100% of these streams, and I think when the campaign ended, Brent, we were at like what, 12,000 streams. The campaign ended
Yeah.
October 1st, 2024.
Yeah.
And we're about like right around 12, maybe 13,000 or high 12,000s, but it was right around in there. Now it's at like 22,000. Okay.
It's like double that after the fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So the out of 12,000 streams, like, I mean, we had, it was like 1,230 saves, and every one of those was put into a personal playlist. Here's the other thing. The streams per listener number I was obsessing with, that was keeping me up at night. What did that end up at?
I think it was like in like the threes, like three something at the height of it.
3.8.
Like
almost triple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost triple the amount of time somebody heard the song just on Spotify. Now, that doesn't account for how we did the promotion, which I'm going to share with you in a second here, okay? But you also got 170 followers from that.
Yeah.
Right? So
during that campaign, I was probably getting like 8 to 10 new followers a day, and like I said, that was intentional traffic. That that's like I said, a potential ass in a seat at a show, which was really cool to see.
Yeah. So you understand how to weight that. And guess what? Spotify does too, right? Intentional traffic. When you go to an artist's account, listen to that song on their account, and then save it to your library and play it on your own personal playlist. That's intentional traffic. And that is weighted far heavier than any kind of program traffic on any playlist, whether it's Spotify's or a commercial playlist promotion company. So that is huge because you're going to get more love from the algorithm because of intentional traffic versus the playlist traffic. And Brent, I think I heard you say that you're getting more love from the fans, right? Did you feel something different on the second on the campaign we did than the first two?
Well, yeah, I mean, and outside of just people that have been fans for a while, they were having just more content to respond to, which maybe a fan I've had for years, but hasn't seen a piece of content from me for a while, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember I saw that, I heard that song live last year, but it's cool to see that the digital version of it. I should see it when he's coming to my neck of the woods again, and so with that promotional stuff, I probably got from my already existing fans a resurgence in asking where I was playing when I was playing again around them. So there's definitely a spike in interest from existing fan base. But then on top of that, I was getting friend requests and direct messages from people who are like, hey, came across your stuff and really dug it. Where can I get more of it? And like I said, that's the that one extra
From
click,
people
that
you
one
didn't
extra.
know.
Yeah,
That was from
yeah,
people you
exactly.
didn't know. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
We talked about
Yeah,
that part. You didn't talk about the resurgence, so I like that. That was
yeah.
interesting. I didn't
So
think
it's
about
cool.
that.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a definitely like a win-win for sure. And like I said, ultimately, like I said, if you're putting money into promotion, it's promotion. You're not looking for ROI. Your ROI as a touring live artist is that I want to see more people at the show. I want to sell more
Mhm,
T-shirts. And
mhm.
so in that regard, this promotion really helped me as far as you know being reestablished with my current fan base and also gaining a number of new followers that hopefully will keep going and going. And so that's like I said, the runway is getting longer, to to grow.
Yeah, think about it like think about it like a roller coaster, man. I mean, that's like the top of the roller coaster is where it reaches a certain level of critical mass, right? So as long
Yeah.
as you're slowly creeping up that hill on the roller coaster, then you're headed in the right direction for that critical mass because it's when the audience gets big enough overall or in a specific market, right?
Mhm.
Where all of a
Yeah.
sudden it goes from I'm going to see Brent Michael Wood because he's cool, he's coming to town to everybody's going because they all want to be a part of that
Yeah.
scene, right? That's what I
Right.
mean. That's the difference, and that's when it kind of blows up. Brent, you Baxter, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I have. So an analogy hit me. So again, there's definitely some value in the playlist promotion, but it's almost like that's since I know Johnny and I are football fans. Um, it's like, oh, this offense puts up a lot of yards on this offense. They put up big numbers as far as yardage, right? They outgain the other team. So that's like I got 100,000 spins or 140,000 spins. That's flashy. That's fun. But it doesn't put points on the board nearly as much as a save or a follow does. That's points on the board, right?
Yeah,
That's what's going to win the game. Is
yeah,
not, so
Yeah.
maybe the going through the Facebook and the stuff that you did with Johnny, it's not it's more of a grind out drive kind of thing. It doesn't put the big flashy yardage numbers at the end of the game, but it puts up more points.
Right.
Is what it sounds like to
Sure.
me.
Yeah. Well,
well,
and
yeah.
to
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, and just to reiterate one more point I really thought was that I really took to heart was in the past promotions, like Johnny had said, it was just Spotify, and
Mhm.
with the
Mhm.
promotion I did with you was along all platforms, and so I had my Apple Music artist page where I can get data. And one of the things that really stuck out to me was people are actually buying the song.
Mm.
So it's not just streaming it. So that's actually what is it? I mean, how many streams does it take to get a dollar? Like 3,000 streams for a dollar, something like that on Spotify. So
Oh,
anyway, making some actual like a little bit of change as far as people buy the song. But the other thing is, like we said, being heard not played was that that song had over 100 Shazams.
Mm.
So
yeah.
people like heard it somewhere else. Were like, "What song is that?" That interests me, and so I thought that was just a really cool piece of information to know that like that was the web of information was going a little farther than it had prior, which is a cool feeling.
That's cool.
Right. So at the end of result of this, we ended this campaign on October 1st, and we had before the campaign started, you were about 16 to 1700 monthly listeners. After the campaign ended, the day the campaign ended on October 1st, it was about 3,611 monthly listeners. Okay.
Right,
Which is to be expected during a promotion, right? But then the
right,
campaign ends and the cliffs stop. It just drops off, right? Like the amount of streams drops off incredibly. And the over the next 28 days, your monthly listeners wind down back to where you were on a playlist campaign, right?
right.
But here's what was fascinating about this, which really got me excited, which is a big reason why I wanted to get Brent on the show so we could talk about this with you guys. your monthly listeners went up after the campaign ended.
Like your
So,
baseline.
yeah. You went from double-digit streams per day to how much did you average, like, for the month after the campaign ended?
I mean, just that one song we promoted was getting. It was like getting like 400 to 600 a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
After,
And
yeah,
and so those playlists, there's so many people that actually saved it, right? And played it and put it on playlist and liked it and heard it and played it. Then when I had the meeting with that one producer that I started off this whole show talking about, you were at 3,700. Okay. 2 weeks after that, you were at 4,200 monthly listeners, right? And now it's back down. It's gone down to like you're probably in the mid 2000s, I would imagine,
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
been so long between releases. But it's Christmas. You're getting married. Like you don't want to release at the end of the year. So we're gonna, the consistency part of this matters. But this is buildable to on a relatively low budget, but understanding there has to be a budget for promotion, right?
Mhm.
But to
Right.
be able to get the music in front of people and the people like it, and you also get the data. Now, why does that matter? So how do we do that real quick? Because I know everybody's eyes are going to glaze over, but we took the algorithm. I'm sorry, we took the link tree that you gave me and we recreated it on another tool that would allow me to inject tracking code on it, right? So what does that do? That means that every time a button is clicked, whether it's for Spotify or Amazon or Apple or
YouTube.
Tidal or YouTube or whatever, I know that it was clicked. I know which button was clicked. I know like who clicked it, right? The second part of this is that everybody, if you're boosting your stuff from your Facebook or Instagram, I've always said that that's sort of like the gateway drug to Facebook ads, which is a far more sophisticated platform than boosting, right? But even on Facebook ads, most people that are trying to promote an artist are promoting them from the ad, right? So, in other words, click here and go watch my video, or click here and go buy a ticket, right? And the algorithm is learning to, and the strategy I'm about to explain to you will change as the brand gets bigger, okay? But in the beginning, a bot can click on the ad, right? So the algorithm is learning to identify who's clicking on the ad, right? Which can be heavily skewed with maybe not the right people that are really going to be fans of the artist or bots, okay? But when we recreate the link tree and we put the code on the link tree, then we're structuring the ad campaign so that the algorithm learns who's clicking the second time. So what that means is, from the consumer experiences, you see this music video in your feed because we put it there with a sponsored ad. You liked what you saw, you liked what you heard, you click on the link, and that takes you to a link tree. And then you have to choose which your favorite platform is, and you click on that, and that takes you to Brent's account on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or whatever. And it's the second click. So the algorithm's learning about the second click, not about the first click, which puts you into a much, much deeper end of the gene pool that helps you find a better artist, right? And the second part of this was, so to kind of reiterate, you mentioned a little bit of the strategy, Brent, in the beginning. He had a great looking video. By the way, really inexpensive. And I need to talk to you about those guys because like I won't even shoot a video like that for that. But I got some artists that need to know those guys, But
Sure.
like a live performance video.
I will use them again for sure. No.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked really, really good, but it was easy. It was not a conceptual kind of a thing. It's just you being the rock star. There's a band around you. You're in clearly in like a photography studio setting, not a recording studio setting. So,
Right.
it's just a
Yeah.
whole white background and it looks really good. And it was shot right, lots of movement, everything like that. So I told him, I said, okay, give me 3 1-minute sections of the video. Start one at the beginning, start one at a chorus, and pick the third one that you want. And the reason that I did this is I don't know where they're going to. We have to interrupt their attention now. This is the content that went out to cold audiences, people that don't know Brent Michael Wood from a can of paint. All right, and I don't know what part that's going to turn them on the most. So let's pick 3 or 4 parts. Right now, looking back a second time, I would have done a fourth test on this that would have been starting at a verse. Right? Maybe some people are going to like starting at a verse, but we ran 3 different ads that were video ads that got the equal amount of budget, very low budget. It was like I think $15 a day or something like that. And we ran those for a few days. And for like the first 3 or 4 days, it was kind of like neck and neck with all 3 of them. But then it became very clear that the one, it was actually the section that you picked, Brent, which started at the bridge, which is a very sort of breakdown hooky bridge. It was like a whoa, whoa, whoa hook thing going on. And that's the one that they just responded to the most. So that is where we're going to throttle up the ad budget because we know we're going to get the most amount of attention from this one section of the video, whether it was visual or musical, I don't really know, but that's the one that worked, right? We don't have to guess. We don't have to know. We just have to know what they feel and what they do, right? The consumers. So we started ramping that up. So this brings me to like another point when you're talking about radio and other forms of promotion. You get a number 1 hit. Who heard it? I don't know. God bless you if you get one. Who liked it? I don't know. Who didn't like it? I don't know. So for an artist at the top of the food chain, like a Luke Bryan or Miranda Lambert, somebody like that, it doesn't matter so much to them, but their label is spending a boatload of money to put their artist in front of audiences that they know can't stand their artist.
That's all right.
Okay. That's broadcast. Okay. Now, when you're at the top of the food chain, the money is so big and the reach is so broad that the positives way outweigh the negatives. Okay. At this point, now that's changing on radio to be sure. Okay. But for right now, that's still the case. But for a new artist trying to break, and again, this is like what we're talking about. Like, how do you grow that audience? Man, that is an expensive way to do this, right? Because you're spending money. You don't have the money to spend. Even if you're on a major label, you don't have the money to spend to be put in front of people that we know either are never going to come into the market for you or aren't ready to come into the market for you, right? So how do we counteract that with Brent's campaign? We created this follow-up content where, as he mentioned before, where he's talking about, hey, how'd you write the song? I mean, these were like, 1 minute, maybe 90-second at the most piece of content, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was at your studio for, maybe 30 minutes. And we just did, probably 10 little snippets of, like I said, 30-second bits of content.
Yeah. I mean, it was real quick. And we shot the content and it's just little stories like, how did you write the song? Who did you write it with? What was it about? Okay. Then how did you record it? Who produced it? Who played on the track? And then we also did just some sort of calls to action. Hey, stream my song and save it wherever you're at or whatever. And then you also told like an anecdotal story about your first writing experience in Nashville because you're from San Antonio and your buddies were trying to get you to move to Nashville. And the first time you came to Nashville to visit, you wrote a song and that song got cut. And you're like, this is easy. I'm moving to Nashville. So great story, really funny, right? But here's the point. We have absolute control over who's going to see that content, who isn't going to see that content. We only showed the follow-up content, which, by the way, so this is shot like an interview. You're seeing, what you got a music video first, right? From the consumer's perspective. And you're seeing the artist, you're seeing Brent do his thing. Wow, that looks cool. That sounds cool. I like this. I'm going to go listen to it some more. And then the next thing that happens is you get another piece of content. Well, here's an interview with the artist that I just liked, that I just saw. And he's talking about how he wrote this song and what's playing in the background. The song, the hook of the song. So they hear it a second time, right? and then a third piece of content comes out. And now he's talking about how he recorded the song and what's playing in the background, the song. And then the fourth piece of content with the anecdote on the songwriting thing. So I keep seeing this artist, I keep hearing this song, whether I've clicked and added that to my playlist or not, I still keep hearing it and seeing it, And what do? We just reproduced the fundamentals of what radio did, but in a way that made it consumable on a digital platform. But the overall strategy is still the same as radio. It's just we can't keep pushing out the same music video or the same piece of content, So what do I see from that? I mean, I see it's buildable, right? So Brent, like next year, Brent's got some more songs that are coming out. We're going to stage these like 6 to 8 weeks apart to stay for the releases, to stay within that algorithm, the sweet spot of the algorithm of Spotify. And I have every reason to believe that we are going to have more fans and more monthly traffic, even 28 days after the campaign ends from the first release, than we did before. And at the end of the 28 days after the campaign ends on the second release, we're going to have more traffic, more followers, more fans than we did at the end of the campaign of the first release, and so on. And I think you build that up to 30,000 monthly listeners, and now all of a sudden you're pitching and Spotify sees something's going on, right? They know the difference. And if you know the difference, then you know how to give them what they want. And then God bless you, you get that song, man, that gets on an editor. I think Burn or This Means War, which is the song that we promoted, I think either one of those songs in the context of an editorial playlist escalating possibilities is a smash, So it's building up your base, right? Your base amount of traffic to really be able to get to that place that every time that one sheet comes across the desk of the Spotify executive to determine whether or not you're going to be on the playlist, they're seeing the numbers keep increasing. Like, okay, this guy's working. Like, let's do it. The song's great. It's tracking great. They already know that. We're gonna put this on. So, anything you want to add to that to button this up, Brent Michael Wood?
I mean, I think just from seeing the success of the campaign that we did together, especially with like retention of followers, fans, and the use of quality content. I'm using this downtime in the holidays, even with my wedding and all that kind of stuff, to really like set a timeline and a strategy for the next year with your help, and having, like I said, every 6 to 8 weeks. And I said I have 6 new songs like in the chamber ready to go, and hopefully have like a video for each one of those in conjunction with promotion with you to to keep ramping up a little more every time and increase that resting heart rate to where, like I said, without thinking about it, you're at 30,000 as like you're resting streams. And I see the real chance for like big growth and retention next year with that strategy being in place.
Buildable.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
buildable. I mean, that's just it. That's the most exciting part to me. And yeah, it's real. They're real fans. I mean, so here's what's funny is like if you go and look at the amount of saves on Spotify for "This Means War," which is again the song that we promoted, you got 1,228 saves for that. That's and you're at 20, I think 22,000 streams right now in that song. It was 1,228 saves at 12,000 streams.
Right.
So all those people still listening to the song, all those people like enough to do another 10,000 streams on it because they like it, right? Because because you're being heard, you're actually being heard. And the way that they stumble across the song is visually and audially, and it's repetitive as opposed to, why is it the 1.4 on streaming? Because think about how long those playlists are, right? 60, 80, 100 songs long.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while to cycle through those. So it's not marketing, guys, but it is a cash register that needs to be taken seriously, but approach it that way. And then, I think we can continue to build this and again, some songs are going to perform better than, I think This Means War. If you guys haven't heard that song or Burn, go check them out. These are exceptional songs. I haven't heard your other 6. I can't wait to see what you got, but you better beat that, cowboy, because
it's cyberpunk polka. That's what we're doing. Yeah,
cyberpunk polka.
Yes.
Brent, anything you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think this is encouraging. Just I'm not doing the artist thing, but just watching, a career like, okay, this isn't just, again, it's not just putting up, we're not doing this for a screenshot. It looks like for around the same kind of amount of money, you're actually like, you're just not making screenshots out of this. You're making like fans out of this. And that's the big thing is like fans travel, right? You take them with you. It's not just, well, that was fun. I talked to the cute girl at the bar. I didn't get her number. It's going, oh, I talked to the cute girl at the bar. I got her number. Now I can follow up. And that's just monumentally different than somebody heard it.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's like the needle moved and it's stuck, and the way that you spoke about the resurgence from your previous fans with the promotion that we did on the follow-up stuff, these new fans that you just gained from the This Means War campaign, we're going to have a resurgence in those with the next release, in 2025. So there it is, guys. I mean, there's man, that was a big pulling back of the green curtain there to show you like what we did. But I mean, this is kind of so new and fresh. Halfway through this campaign, when I started looking at these numbers, I told like 3 of my friends about it, and all 3 of them hired me. And I wasn't trying to sell anything. I was like, man, check this out. Because these are friends that I would geek out with, like on numbers and stuff like that.
I got to tell you, I love this because we'd be at the freak show at the local. And I think Dustin Bird was there, friend of the show, co-writer of mine. And Johnny was like, I got to tell you about this thing. And I go check in about like 20 minutes later. And he's still talking about it. Like, I'm just going to go back and listen to the round now. Good luck, Dustin. So for everyone who didn't catch everything at the local, if Johnny cornered you, now this is the episode you can listen to catch all that good stuff. So
it was so exciting. It was so exciting. I was just like, wow, okay, like this is a pathway right here.
Yeah.
Where we can like do it, and it's not like $100,000. And I'm,
however, if you want to spend $100,000, you're going to get a lot bigger return. Right.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Like,
yeah.
I started this show off by talking about that producer and this artist. I mean, this artist got like a legit backer, right? And I heard the music. It's nothing that like stuck out to me as like absolutely amazing, but I tell you, it's freaking well done. It's a really good song, and it's a really well recorded and produced. It sounds like it should be on the radio. And I know that they spent at the time of that meeting $25,000 on secondary radio promotion, and that artist, and this is why I was called in by the producer, because he noticed the hole in Spotify, that artist had 4,600 monthly listeners on Spotify. Right. And every time I ask the question, and I asked this like for the last decade, like, okay, like, so it was worth it though, right? Like, are the markets that are spinning the artist, are you getting more? Are you selling out there? Like, is your audience increased a lot? Like, what is it? Where's the ROI there, right? And nobody can give me a straight answer.
Yeah.
And I know that this artist went and spent another 25,000 on radio. So yeah, 10x what we did with $2,700. Spend $27,000 instead of 170 followers. We can reasonably expect that you would get 1,700 followers, right? Instead of a peak of 4,200 monthly listeners, we could reasonably expect with 10x the ad spend that you would get 42,000 monthly listeners, right? And so it really is, and the beauty of that, by the way, is that if it's not working, we can just shut it down. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like, because honestly, when we first started, I think your initial budget, Brent, was like $2,000, right? And then it just was like, well, everybody was loving it. Where this is going to do another 500. Okay.
Yeah.
Do another 500. And then we tried to make a different push just towards YouTube, and it kind of fell off on YouTube. And so we're like, you know what? Let's call it. Like, that was a good run. But $2,770. So anyway, there it is, guys. There's a pathway. There's a real actionable pathway. Yes, it requires money. Yes, it requires some digital marketing expertise. But if you have a compelling artist with a competitive song and a competitive recording who's willing to do the content and you push it out, guess what? You're going to put it in front of people that are going to hear it and they're going to react to it, and then the ones that react, you keep the repetition up to then. Now we know we're spending money to create the repetition on people that we know liked what they saw. Okay. And they're ready to come in right now. They're liking it right now for whatever reason. And that's how you build that audience and you get the data. So final note here, like, what does it mean that the data? Well, the algorithm has a better idea of who a Brent Michael Wood fan is now. And he gets to piggyback on that data on the next release. The second thing is that there's thousands of people that have seen this content, thousands. You view that as a consumption metric, right? Like, oh, wow, that's great. You've got this many clicks or whatever, or, whatever, blah, blah. But it's data. Like that means those are thousands of real people with real Facebook and Instagram accounts that we can use two ways. That data we can use two different ways. Number one is we can create lookalike audiences from them. Hey, go find me a bunch of people that have never heard of Brent Michael Wood who look just like these people right over here. And it goes and it finds the similarities in all the data points that Facebook keeps. And it just goes and looks out for those similarities in other data points and other accounts. That's it. It doesn't, oh, they like this, they like that, they like this, they like that. There's hundreds of things in there that are similar amongst all those 1,000 people that became new fans for Brent Michael Wood. The second thing is, and this is hugely important, is that you can retarget those specific accounts. That's what we did to create the repetition, right? Hey, people that watch this part of the music video, at least 50% of the way through, we want them to see this next thing, okay? Yep. And anybody that's ever interacted with this Facebook or his Instagram thing. But we can target them specifically with a new piece of content, but also a very specific message. Hey, this is Brent Michael Wood. I'm coming through town on tour, and I just want to let you know, hey, this is Brent Michael Wood. I got a new release coming out. I want you to pre-save it, right? Because that's going to help your algorithmic chances of getting on editorial playlist. Or, hey, this is Brent Michael Wood. I got a special treat for you. This is a song that I'm never going to release, officially, you can only get it because you've either consumed my content, saved it, or shared it. You made me feel like a rock star, and I want to do something for you. So I have a gift. This is a free download. Just tell me where to send it.
And now you have an
And
email.
then you get the frickin' email. I mean, my God, I was just talking about this last night with Mackenzie O'Brien was in town. We were at the local, and I was like, can you imagine if Taylor Swift or Keith Urban did something like that? Like, they would get millions of emails, millions. And now you can sell in those emails. Hey, it's the end of 2025. I got some merch left over. I'm blowing this out for half price right now. Like, boom, everybody's going to grab it. I mean, like, there's so much that you can do with that where it really can work like a business. So guys, there it is. I shared everything with you. All right, take it, run with it, and get back to me with the results. This podcast exists because we want
Brent
to win.
Where can we find you?
Oh yeah,
online.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, my music is on all platforms. It's under my full name, Brent Michael Wood. My socials are my full name also. It's Brent Michael Wood on Spotify, Brent Michael Wood on Facebook. My YouTube channel is my full name, Brent Michael Wood, with all the that quality full song content that we use to promote this last song is on there. And then, like I said, I post on all my socials when I'm playing in your town, which will be quite a few live shows next year. So keep a lookout.
Awesome. Thank you.
There we go, guys. All right. Thanks for that, Brent. I mean, this whole thing has been a plug for Brent Michael Wood.
That's right.
But we didn't give the specifics on it. I forgot it. So, but anyway, guys, this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.
Who ride a Greyhound?